There are betrayals that stab like knives, sudden, violent, unforgettable. And then there are betrayals that whisper, signing your name in ink before you ever realize the blade's been drawn. Mine was the second kind. Her name was Camille Everett, and she used to be my closest friend. We met during my first year working at a boutique law firm in Portland. Both of us paralegals then, both ambitious, both pretending adulthood was something we could master with caffeine and confidence. Camille was the kind of person people noticed. She had this wild, golden hair that caught the light, and a laugh that made men lean closer without knowing why. I was quieter, steadier. Nora Bennett, 29, careful with words and even more careful with trust. But Camille made it easy to forget caution. She was spontaneous where I was deliberate, bold where I was restrained. She made the ordinary feel cinematic. We spent late nights at her apartment, drinking cheap Merlot out of mugs, venting about work, love, everything. I'd proofread her resumes, she'd help me pick out clothes before firm events. It wasn't a friendship built on shared values exactly. It was built on shared loneliness. And like most things built too quickly, it cracked under pressure. The first signs were small. She borrowed money, just until payday, borrowed clothes and returned them months later, stretched or stained. I told myself she was just scattered, that I was being judgmental. Then came the favor that ruined everything. It was a Sunday morning when she called, voice tight, trembling. "Nora, I'm in such a mess. Can I come over?" She showed up 20 minutes later, eyes red, clutching a folder. "I need your help," she said, pacing my kitchen. "It's just a stupid formality. You'll laugh when you see how simple it is." She laid out the papers like a magician revealing her trick. "It's for a small business I'm starting, a catering gig. The bank just needs a temporary guarantor on the equipment lease. You'd only be signing to say you know me." I frowned. "Camille, that sounds like financial liability, not a reference." "It's not," she insisted. "It's symbolic. They just need proof of a credible reference because my credit's still recovering from, you know." Her voice softened, and suddenly she looked so fragile, mascara smudged, hands shaking. "Please, Nora, just this once. I can't ask anyone else. You're the only person who's ever believed in me." That last sentence landed like bait. I'd always wanted to believe I was the good friend, the loyal one, the fixer. So I sighed, took the pen, and signed. Weeks passed. Nothing catastrophic happened. She texted updates about her new business, how the lease was approved, how she'd pay me back for that emergency loan she'd borrowed a while back. Then, silence. Her messages slowed, then stopped. Calls went unanswered. I told myself she was busy, until the envelope arrived. It was from Benton County Civil Court, addressed to Nora Bennett, guarantor of record. My throat went dry as I read the first line. Notice of legal proceedings regarding unpaid balance of equipment lease. Camille hadn't just used my name. She'd made me legally responsible for a $46,000 debt. I reread the words until they blurred, my pulse thrumming in my ears. She'd listed me not as a reference, not as a witness, but as a guarantor, meaning if she defaulted, the debt became mine. I drove to her apartment the next morning. Her car was gone, the curtains drawn. When I knocked, no one answered. The leasing office told me she'd moved out 2 weeks earlier, left in a hurry, the manager said. That's when panic turned to fury. Back home, I opened our old text threads. There it was, her message, "It's just symbolic, no risk to you." I read it over and over, like staring at the photo of a fire you'd already escaped but still felt burning on your skin. Then I called the leasing company. The representative confirmed what I feared. "Yes, Miss Bennett, you're listed as the guarantor. The lessee defaulted after 2 months. The equipment's missing. Unless resolved, the full amount will fall on you." I tried to keep my voice steady. "So you're saying I'm responsible for $46,000 because I signed one page for a friend?" "That's correct," she said politely, as if I'd ordered the wrong coffee. The next weeks blurred into a mix of rage and disbelief. I filed reports, hired an attorney. Every professional I spoke to gave the same advice. You'll need to prove intent, that she deceived you knowingly. Intent, the single word that could either damn her or save her. I scoured every message, every voicemail, every scrap of paper, building my own private case file. And then, buried in an old group chat from months before, I found it. A screenshot Camille had sent another friend, laughing about her backup plan. "Camille, if I can't get the loan, I'll just have Nora sign off." She never reads fine print. The message was months old, time-stamped before she'd asked me. It wasn't carelessness. It was a setup. That night, I saved the screenshots, printed everything, and emailed them to my attorney. He called me the next morning. "This changes everything." The court date arrived 6 months later. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Fluorescent lighting, echoing footsteps, the smell of floor polish and nerves. Camille sat across the aisle, hair darker now, styled into a sharp bob. Her confidence had curdled into something brittle. She avoided my eyes. When the judge called her name, she stood, voice sugar-coated. "Your Honor, this is all a misunderstanding between friends. I never meant to involve Miss Bennett." I almost laughed. When it was my turn, I stood and handed over the evidence file. The clerk flipped through the pages, screenshots, texts, lease documents. My attorney spoke with calm precision. "Your Honor, these messages show clear premeditation. Miss Everett admits she planned to use Miss Bennett's signature under false pretenses." The judge scanned the pages, his brow tightening. Camille tried to interject. "That was just a joke." He looked up sharply. "You joked about committing fraud?" She stammered. It wasn't like that." I watched her unravel, every ounce of charm slipping through her fingers like sand. When it was over, the judge ruled in my favor. Camille was found liable for the entire debt plus damages. The guarantor clause was voided due to fraudulent intent. I didn't celebrate, I didn't gloat, I just breathed, for the first time in months. Outside the courthouse, she followed me into the parking lot. "Nora, please," she said, her voice trembling. "You don't understand what I was going through. I thought I could fix it before it blew up." I turned to her. "You thought wrong." Tears streaked her face. "We were friends." "Were," I said. "And you signed that away the second you forged trust into leverage." She tried to reach for my arm, but I stepped back. The distance between us felt permanent, not measured in feet, but in everything she'd taken from me. "I didn't ruin you," I said quietly. "You did that yourself." Then I walked away. People think betrayal ends when you win, when the judge rules in your favor, when justice is served. But real healing doesn't come from the verdict. It comes from the silence after, when you finally realize you no longer owe your pain an audience. The weeks that followed were strangely peaceful. I closed old accounts, moved apartments, even changed my number. I let go of the version of me who signed without reading, the one who mistook pity for love. Camille tried to reach out once more. A handwritten letter slipped into my mailbox. "I hope one day you'll forgive me," it said. "I was desperate. You were my only friend." I folded it neatly and burned it in my kitchen sink. Forgiveness wasn't hers to request. It was mine to define. Months later, life found rhythm again. I adopted a stray cat, started running before work. I even made new friends, slower this time, steadier. But the past has a way of echoing through the most ordinary days. One afternoon, while walking through downtown, I saw a poster on a cafe window. "Everett Creative Catering, grand reopening." For a moment, I froze. Camille, reborn, or pretending to be. I thought about walking past, about pretending I hadn't seen it. But curiosity, that dangerous human instinct, pulled me inside. The cafe was small, warm, filled with people sipping lattes and laughing. And there she was, behind the counter, arranging pastries with a bright, brittle smile. When she noticed me, the color drained from her face. Nora, she whispered, as if saying my name might collapse the walls around her. I smiled politely. The place looks nice. Her eyes darted around, panicked. Please don't make a scene. I laughed softly. A scene? Camille, I came for coffee. You already made the scene months ago. She flinched like my words had weight. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. Just remember, if you want this to last, don't build it on lies. And then I turned, ordered my coffee, and left her standing there, surrounded by the life she'd tried to build with borrowed truth. That night, I sat by my window, watching rain streak down the glass. There was no thrill of revenge, no high of triumph, just quiet, the kind that feels earned. I thought about how easily I'd trusted her, how much I'd wanted to believe people meant well. But some betrayals aren't warnings to stop trusting, they're reminders to trust better. Now, whenever I sign anything, a lease, a form, even a delivery slip, I pause, read, think. Not out of fear, but out of self-respect. Because the most dangerous signature isn't the one written in ink, it's the one you give when you let someone else define your worth. And I'll never sign that away again. Sometimes I wonder if Camille ever truly understood what she did. Maybe, in her mind, she saw it as survival, using what she could to climb a little higher. But survival without conscience isn't strength. It's cowardice wearing ambition's perfume. She'll rebuild, I'm sure. People like her always do, on new ground with new names. But I don't need to follow her story anymore. My revenge wasn't in her downfall. It was in my freedom, the kind that doesn't need a courtroom or applause, only peace. Because the truth is, she didn't teach me not to trust. She taught me not to ignore the warning signs of betrayal disguised as friendship. And that's a lesson worth every scar.
You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.